Samsung Galaxy XR. There's not many times when a new product comes out and I have to completely change my entire production schedule. This kind of just came out of nowhere. They announced it, and then 2 days later, I'm able to order it and it shipped to my house. And man, I am really excited for this one. All right, if you're not sure what the Samsung Galaxy XR is, it's essentially Samsung, Qualcomm, and Google's answer to the Apple Vision Pro. And when I did my review of the Apple Vision Pro, I said that there was no company out there that could really make a product like this. Doing VR this good really just takes all of Apple's experience for the past 2 to 3 decades and just rolls it all into one product. And the only way any competitor can do this is by teaming up. So that's why you're getting a chip made by Qualcomm, the physical build and the design made by Samsung, and all the software made by Google. So how did they do? I think they did pretty okay. I'm not going to hold back anything here. The Apple Vision Pro is still a much better product, but the Galaxy XR priced at $1,799 versus Apple's $3,499. I think this is priced more accordingly. All right, so let's just get right into it. First, build on the design. It's light. It's much more lighter than the Apple Vision Pro. I know I'm going to have to keep on comparing this to the Apple Vision Pro because a lot of inspiration was taken from the Apple Vision Pro to make this, and you'll see that throughout this video. But one way they're able to make this a lot lighter is because they chose to use plastic. It is a cheaper material, probably helps with production costs too, and I am all for it. That was one of my complaints with the Apple Vision Pro. I felt it was over-engineered. This, using plastic, really makes it much lighter. So this entire sideband here is made out of plastic. The back, this adjustment portion, which tightens and loosens the headset, is made out of plastic. And even this top portion here as well, too. The only aluminum I'm able to find is the frame area, and it's a thin piece. It doesn't feel like the most high quality aluminum, but again, this probably helps with production costs and keeps the weight down. And the front of this VR headset, which I'm assuming is made out of plastic, I wasn't able to find out, but I hope it is. Try not to touch this because it gets fingerprints very easily, and that's what houses all the cameras, and there are a lot of them in the front and on the bottom. And what you also get are 2 inserts. There's a slim and a thick one. And the difference between the slim and the thick is just the amount of thickness that occurs here. And they also include some padding that is magnetized. So when you're switching between the slim and the thick, you'll just switch this out with it. And everything works with magnets. Super simple. And what they've also included, and at first I was wondering, why isn't it just permanently attached? And then I kind of got it after a while. These are light blockers. So when you put these on, you're able to see your peripheral, so it gives you the illusion of having a much wider field of view than when you put these blockers on. There's pros and cons to that. And this is potentially the first con that I have noticed with the Galaxy XR is the field of view isn't as wide as other headsets out there. The Meta Quest has a much wider field of view, and so does the Apple Vision Pro, at least just based off of memory. So because this field of view isn't as wide, it essentially feels like I'm wearing glasses, and my peripheral kind of fills out the rest of the space. So it does kind of create a wider field of view, and I do find it to be useful to not be fully shut out from the world. But I do have to admit, though, most of the times I want to be immersed in VR. So I am using these light blockers. Let's just get these in. So now that when I put these on, most of the light is blocked out. There's still a little bit of light bleed coming out through the bottom, but I actually don't really notice it that much. And like I mentioned, the field of view is narrower, but now I'm just fully locked into VR mode. I'm glad that they included these light blockers and that they gave us a choice. And this might just be a good segue to talk about what it's like when it's on. And I will say, the first time that I put this on, I felt a little bit of discomfort. I'm not sure what it was and what was causing it. I can tell that there is a small degree of flicker on these micro LED displays. So you're definitely going to want to be aware of that if you're sensitive to flicker. And I think another reason why I felt like a little bit uneasy and maybe a little bit motion sickness because I needed to let the lenses calibrate it. Because when you turn it on for the first time, it'll walk you through that entire process. Really simple. You don't have to do anything. Much better than VR headsets from the past where you manually had to adjust the interpupillary distance. I hope I said that right. And another thing that I've noticed is the cameras itself. Because this glass portion here is not see-through, it's relying on cameras to blast what's in front of you, and it is using processing. It's not as good as Apple's processing of video, at least live. So you're going to be seeing a whole bunch of videos of me using this. It's just essentially a screen recording. What I have noticed is the post-processing after that screenshot has saved looks a lot better, but the live view is a bit too contrasty and very noisy around dark areas, and it's just not quite as sharp. And I've also noticed that there's some weird motion blur too, or ghosting, that's contributing to potentially the idea that can make you feel a little bit motion sickness. I have found that I got used to it and it hasn't been bothering me as much, but people who are sensitive might need to be aware. And coming back to this motion blur slash ghosting that I just mentioned, it's not necessarily the display itself. 90 hertz is more than acceptable, and it seems like the response time of these displays are pretty fast. What I'm experiencing is primarily when the cameras are being used to do the pass-through mode. So when I'm using the actual UI, I don't notice any ghosting and things look very sharp and very clean. I just hope that they can tweak the camera performance a little bit more to make it seem a little bit more lifelike. So, okay, a bit of a con out the way. I just wanted to mention that just in case you were thinking that this was going to be an Apple Vision Pro clone at a much lower price. No, we're not quite there. So let's actually talk about what the UI is like. It is very similar to the Apple Vision Pro. Why don't we just do a live demo right now? This is my virtual space. I could turn on pass-through mode, but it's a little bit messy here. There's a whole bunch of studio lights and stuff. It's a bit distracting. I could just show the interface a lot better if I was using this mode. So you can't see my hands, and it is fairly one-to-one, not much latency. And there is a pointer, same thing, a little bit of latency, but not too much, still enough to be very immersive. So the way it works, and you've probably seen a few videos by now, when I move my right hand up like this, you see like a home button, you press that, and it brings the home button up. And this brings up an interface, again, very similar to Apple Vision Pro. So the cool thing about it is there's a button on the side of the headset. When I press and hold that, it'll automatically recenter it, which is nice. So that makes it much easier. So these are all of your apps, and you can control this interface two ways. You can look at things and point, and you'll start to see a cursor showing up like right now, or I can just rest my fingers down and I can use my eyes. So right now you can see that the different apps are being highlighted, and I'm pointing at it with my eyes. So if I just point at it with my eyes and then just single tap with my finger, it'll open up that particular app. Very useful, very easy to use. When you're in bright light, it works really well. But I have found that in darker environments, even in this room right now, it's not always perfect, and sometimes the cameras have a hard time reading my hands. Hopefully that can be tweaked in software, and it's not a hardware limitation of these cameras and the processing itself. So that works really good. The thing is though, like there's still some times where I just wish I could use a mouse and keyboard or just have like a regular touchscreen. As cool as this is, it's still not like a super user type of input. I'm just gonna take this outside quickly and I'll just show you a little bit more with a much more open space. So the thing is though, when things start to work, it is a glorious experience. I played a few games on it and I connected it to my desktop back there and did some Steam VR. Being able to play games at 4K wirelessly, streamed from my computer with the full RTX and everything, it was actually amazing. It's like a real big screen experience. Like it's hard to really convey in video, but it actually felt like I was playing video games or watching YouTube videos in like a grand theater, which was amazing. I will say overall that I'm not going to say that this is better looking than some of my monitors out there. The color reproduction on those are still better. They still get brighter. And also, it just looks a little bit sharper. But what I can't get on those screens, though, is something this big and immersive. And also, there is a USB port on the top right of it, and I thought it supported display out. From what I'm starting to find out, that I think it's only USB Type C to HDMI, which doesn't make sense. Those are two different interfaces that there would have to be some type of translation layer. I was just hoping that this would just have a display port through a USB Type C so I could connect this directly to my monitor, so I'm not relying on a wireless connection between my PC and this headset. Thankfully, I do have an excellent Wi-Fi system that Asus sent out to me a while ago that I need to do a review on. It's Wi-Fi 7 quad band, which is supported by this headset and also my desktop. So I got a really good experience, but sometimes I just prefer a wire. I just wish this was just a simple display port cable on it. It just doesn't seem like it is right now. I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit more. Oh, one thing I would absolutely recommend though are the Galaxy Buds Pro 3. They are compatible with this and it seems like it works really well. I didn't notice much of that Bluetooth lag that you would typically see. I found things to be very immersive. As good as these speakers are, they're pretty decent. The Apple Vision Pro speakers were phenomenal. These are just good. If you've used something like the Meta Ray glasses, you know that those speakers are fairly adequate too. The Galaxy XR is a lot better, but if you want to take it up a notch, definitely get the Galaxy Buds Pro 3. All right, so let's just get into some cons and why this is worth it at $1,799. But if money was no object, the Apple Vision Pro would still be a better system overall. Apple Vision Pro is a little bit further along in their software, so it's just more refined and there's a lot more powerful tools you could use on that. You know, that just is what it is. Not really Google's fault. This is their first generation, their first year out. I'm sure that they will get better. But in terms of some of the hardware differences, I did mention the field of view was a bit narrower, and that was a bit evident the more that I use it, especially since I got used to using things like the Apple Vision Pro and also the Meta Quest. The resolution is a bit sharper, but in many situations, I'm not really seeing that. I'm assuming they're using some type of anti-aliasing or some type of temporal upscaling, or maybe even some type of AI upscaling similar to what AMD and what NVIDIA does. And it still looks good though. My main issue and why this just isn't as immersive as some of those is the camera. The processing done by Qualcomm and Samsung and Google just isn't quite up to what Apple does with their Vision Pro. So when you're seeing some of these screen recordings, I did notice that there is some post-processing done afterwards that does clean up the image, does get rid of a lot of the noise, which you do see in the live view, but you're not really seeing that in this screen recording. So hopefully that's just something that they could do to where the live camera feed looks a lot better and a lot sharper and has a better denoise effect than what I'm seeing right now, and something closer to what you're seeing in the post-processed video. In great lighting though, it is sharp, but even when I took this outside in sunset, it looked like I was using like an Android camera from like 5 or 6 years ago. So I was a bit disappointed with that. And another con are these lenses. They just are not quite as good as some of the competition out there. Meta has some of the best lenses out there. And the Apple Vision Pro's lenses are pretty good too. These, when I put them on, I could see a bit of my reflection while I'm wearing them. And there's also some vignetting on the corner of the lenses too, to where it gets darker and there's a bit of a color shift and you lose some of the contrast. Because of that, I always feel like I'm wearing goggles and less of me feeling like I'm immersed in a VR experience. Thankfully, it seems like these lenses are swappable, so hopefully we could get some more high quality ones from third parties out there. So I don't want to make this too long of a video, and I know I haven't been overwhelmingly positive about my experience with it, but overall, I'm just nitpicking here. The experience is good, great so far. I'm really enjoying it, and I think this is hitting the price point where I would feel more comfortable with it. $3,500 was just too much for me to stomach. I had to return the Apple Vision Pro. $1,800, I can start to see this. Like if you're using an Android phone, maybe you can just go with something like the Galaxy S25. Instead of going for the Galaxy S25 Ultra, or same thing with the Pixel, maybe just go for the regular Pixel 10 instead of the 10 Pro or the 9A series or the 10A series, etc. Especially when it comes to phones, you're already getting most of the experience. So maybe you can just save some room in your budget for something like this. And I think if that makes sense to you, I think you're really going to like this. This is just based off of my first impressions though. I want to spend some more time with it. I want to game with it more. I want to watch full length movies with it. And yeah, so get subscribed. I got tons more content to do. This coming out and arriving today really screwed up my schedule, but I'll get back there. All right, guys, thanks a lot, and I'll see you the next one. Bye.